Okay. Welcome to the Pillars of Salt LARP Education Class number 5. This is going to be on backgrounds and downtimes. I'm doing this class a little earlier than we normally do for the live streaming people. I have some stuff I need to do later tonight, so we might have a little bit less interaction on the chat. Feel free, as always, when we're done and we post it onto the YouTube, if you want to put in comments there. I'm also happy to answer them if you don't want to just put them in the general Pillars of Salt web pages. Okay? Now, a lot of people ask me, I have these downtimes, I have all these backgrounds. Backgrounds are incredibly easy and cheap to kind of get in a BNS environment, especially if you're a neonate. In the previous version, there were not really a guarantee you ever could get them. It was, someone might say, one staffer might say you've earned them in a certain fashion. Other people might say you can't get backgrounds after character creation because that would take years of expertise. Or influences were originally in the old system before there was fully a background setup. Needless to say, backgrounds are here with us in BNS, and downtimes, which are the counterpoint of the 3 actions you are to accumulate all the work that you could have been doing in that month between game time, or however often your game plays, are a key feature of what it is. You can't do everything you want at a game. Some people are like, I want to experience everything, but a lot of people have these rich internal landscapes where you gotta send out, you want to go on a mission, you want to go talk to your sire. These are all things that really can't happen in game. Now, Dr. Bob, in our chat right here, he says he doesn't like doing the write-ups for him. And it's Mike. Mike's on too. Now, for the most part, Pillars of Salt created a system that we did for our first 2 years, and we've kind of moved a little way away from, that you had to do mandatory write-ups for every downtime to show how you had them and how did you earn these people and these connections. We have moved more towards a questionnaire system where if you do buy a downtime, you just fill, this is the name of the guy, this is the location, this is how I made a contact with that person, and just by filling out the questionnaire, we at least as staff have enough to understand how to really facilitate those kind of growths. So let's hop into the class to begin with. Now, downtimes. What is the general aspect of what are these 3 things I can do? The first category that vampires kind of have to deal with is hunting. With one generic downtime, you are able to fully fill up your hunting pool, your blood pool, and enter a game fully fed. There can be other limits that plot or flaws or other things kind of come into play, but most of the time, people spend one downtime, they kind of move forward with that. A lot of games are also going to try to have a different aspect where their downtimes for feeding can be centralized based, that people have domains, they may get easier aspects than anarchs who have to feed on the barons, things like that. Now, crafting and buying. Now, if you're taking a crafting and buying downtime action, you should be acquiring something at the end of the day. And it might be, the way that BNS kind of says it, you don't need to be able to necessarily afford it, and it's not like a snatch and grab. It's like, oh, well, I couldn't afford it, so I decided to go and sell some, flip a sign at night and entertain people enough to get the money where I wanted, or I seduced a person who was willing to give me the item. So if you're not having natural resources, a staffer could say, I'd like you to spend a downtime to go acquire that. Now, investigation and patrols is very much, I want to know information about a location. In the years of POS, we have made it where there's mechanical numbers, we've made it sometimes you get plot. At the end of the day, you're saying, in this area, I want to represent that I'm here protecting it and kind of moving things forward. Now, contacting NPCs is definitely something that I feel most games should do, but is not an absolutely canon statement. If you want to talk to your sire, or you want to go talk to some luminary of the Camarilla, or you want to have some kind of connection, that amount of interaction, the cost for it is a piece of your downtimes. And it makes just a currency so staffers are not spending all month long dealing these huge NPC interactions, but it also guarantees by you spending that piece, you are getting something in return. If you're just giving a report to a lord, if you're a Tremere, or you're sending a report to an Archon that you're particularly owing to, if they don't give you anything back, it shouldn't cost a downtime. It's like, don't have to pay for postage to get there, but I gotta pay for postage to come back. Now, supporting other people's actions and quest sheets. This comes up in Werewolf BNS. I can just say, that guy's doing good stuff. He's giving me a gist of what he wants me to do. I'm just going to give him a downtime and have all the interactions run to him, and he's just going to be extra invested. Now, quest sheets are the whole large aspect of, I'm doing this epic tale. I don't want to run it all in physical game, and it kind of gives me breakdowns for how things are going to kind of come along. Now, Storyteller Mandated is also another POS requirement. There's plenty of times where you just have something hijinky you want to do, and the storyteller's like, well, I don't want to say no, and I don't want to say yes, and there needs to be a cost, but I don't want to think about the individual cost per person. They could just say, you absolutely can do that. It's just going to be a Storyteller Mandated downtime. Example of this might be, I am going to burn out my old haven in case anyone comes there and try to steal some stuff from me. Okay, just throw a downtime. You've now covered your tracks. Or examples similar to that. Okay. Now, downtimes. How to get the most from them. This is the piece, I think, that really gets a lot of people frustrated or excited. You got to think about, how am I going to get the staffer who's dealing with 50 to 60 downtimes of people, and with times that by 3 because they got a lot of actions? How am I going to get that storyteller's attention to get what I want from my plot? And this is not win conditions. This is some basic aspects to think about both sides of the coin. And welcome, Laura, for logging on to the class. So the first thing I'm going to say is submit early and talk to the storyteller about what you're hoping your downtimes can do. Most of the time, a staffer is handed a sheet of their assigned downtimes they have to work on, and they're popping through 10 or 20, going through them, grinding away. By the time they get to yours, they will be like out of plot ideas, or they don't know anything about that story, or there's no information that they have to provide. If you instead submit early and then talk to the staffer that's detailing with your stuff of, hey, I know you're not really involved in the whole changeling tree plot thing, but I'm going to be doing some downtimes toward that to try to make those our allies. Could you talk to other staffers who are involved in that so I can get kind of an adequate return? It's now in their head. A few days later, they're now doing downtimes. Oh yeah, I asked Joe about that. I asked whatever about that. And now they actually have something to return to you. If you didn't do that little bit of pre-work, they're going to see your stuff and say, I don't know nothing about Tree Phase. Tree Phase don't talk to you. Boom, no response. It's really important to try to think about, they have a large workload, and the easier you can make their workload, normally the more you're going to get. Next, be concise. I have read so many downtimes where, oh, by the light of the moon, and this is a wonderful moment, and I'm feeling this special way, when all it was I hunted in Santa Monica. Or I dropped the box off at the Viceroy. I don't need to hear about you talking to these 4 or 5 people, or hell, even right, I dropped a package at the Viceroy and used this downtime to cover my tracks. That is a much more valuable retort than all of the outlay of what's going on. That's what quest sheets are for. That's what for chats are if your group does chats. The nature of a downtime should be quick and concise. If something is also kind of crazy, they'll say, hey, I have no idea how you're doing that. And you'll be like, oh, well, these are kind of the way I'll be kind of responding to. Now, I didn't put this in here, You deserve, as a staffer, as a player, you deserve as a staffer to directly communicate with you with your downtimes. This is not just thrown in the air, you should have picked it up, you're responsible for communication. The staffer should, as you've taken time to do downtimes, they should take time to actually give you a response. If that tit for tat is not there and that social contract is not there, you're going to be in a situation where you're going to always be frustrated. And either go to a different staffer, try to get help elsewhere if you're not getting assistance, or even just talk to them and say, I need more. What do you want for more? Tell me what I can do to convince you to do more. Step 3 here. Give a context. Sometimes staffers are changing positions. Someone may have not read your last downtimes. Maybe one guy's sick and some guy's coming into play. If you write the number of times you've actually done an event, a staffer is much more likely to say, you've got to get a reward now. Oh my God, they haven't given you a reward yet out of your crazy hijink. So in my example here, this is the third downtime spent looking for that Sabbat Haven, is going to have the person know this is something you've invested in, and it erodes any aspect of them not giving you something in return. As a staffer, I try, if I give someone a goal, I say you're going to get your next major response in X number of downtimes. In 5 downtimes, you're going to get a response about the Sabbat Haven. Now, the response could be they put in revenants there and you thought it was Sabbat, but they were just revenants. But these revenants look like they're Grimaldi that are ready to defect, and maybe you should try to recruit them. That's okay. You didn't get what you wanted of, I'm going to go kill a whole bunch of Sabbat in the Haven, but you do get more story and you do get more direction. Nothing should ever be an absolute dead end unless it's you're walking into something you've already been warned about. If a staffer says there's no more data here and you keep throwing downtimes, they've given up the nature of the social contract. They're like, hey buddy, I've given you all I can give. Next, support the story. Downtimes you know that are going to be moving or making plot are going to be supported with more fervor than invested time for only one person. Everything a staffer has to do, they're thinking about where is the value coming from the most number of people. I can sit in a chat with someone for hours on end and they're going to have the greatest experience ever. They're going to post online saying it was so amazing. But at the end of the day, I need to keep as many people happy as possible and invest in as many people as I can. So if you're interested in plots that are involving others, your things are going to be always much more valuable than your special snowflake interaction. Okay? Now, if you're asking for an item, don't make the staffer search for it. If you're saying, oh, I want a Heckler Koch MP5, and you happen to get the staffer who has never seen real guns in their life and has never researched this aspect, they're going to be like, okay, I don't know what that is, so the answer is no. But if instead you go through and you say, this is the object I want, this is the level of legality, this is the link to where it is, and you keep it short and concise, the person's going to be like, oh, okay, well, it's remarkably illegal in California, but not so legal in other states. You go and get in another state and you drive it over. Okay, move on. Instead of, I don't know what these words and symbols mean, the answer is no. And last, keep it reasonable. The less over the top is the better. There have been some downtimes that are really, really outlandish. Of like, I'm going to spend one downtime to go kill a PC. These things are never going to be completely accepted. So we have another kind of message here in the chat. Let's see what that says. Flip on the weapon things. Please do some research on your own. Yeah, don't ask for gun. You ask for a gun, snarky staffers are going to hand you an air rifle that has no bonus and causes 1 damage off 2 sims. You poked him in the eye. The more you give in this just descriptive stage, the better. And that's why I'm a big fan of the link. Don't make it verbose. Say, I am acquiring, through my underworld context with this particular downtime, a Remington shotgun. Here is the link. I'm done. That is a clean, concise, give me what I want kind of background request. Now, that is how to get the most out of downtimes. it really is a dance between how much you can convince the staffer to give you in their time, because they have to dedicate to a lot of people, and convincing them that that time is valuable. Okay? Now, background types. I've broken up the backgrounds really into 3 primary types and Raite, because Raite only is really for the Savant. People, personal, which are things that affect me, and places and things. Okay. Now, allies. Allies are mortals or groups of mortals who, with a certain level of expertise, can help you with tasks. Every time you can, like, how do I put this? Let's say I have allies 1. I can have allies 1 be the sharks, or the jets. You got the jets, and so when they're a jet, they know they're a jet. And you can ask those guys to go mess with someone else's Officer McCluskey, and that is completely in line. And they will count as a more notable thing if you're doing exactly their focus. Now, but I could just as easily say, I want the jets to go drive my car from point A to point B and let it out and leave it there. While the jets are fully able to do that, they are going to do that less efficiently than someone, let's say, who you have a cab company and they're going to have like some Uber drivers just jump in your car or whatever. So thinking about your focus in here is always going to be how it's going to help you the most. Now, the focus, especially for allies, says things they cannot do. One of the examples I've written here is if I took the F Society hacking group, I could get information on someone's haven, but I would not be able to gun down that cop who saw me feed last week. Now, Dr. Bob brought up a chat, so let's see what he's brought up. I think it's hard to use allies without breaking the masquerade. Very valid point. There are things that are really good for allies that are almost the reverse. I could say, hey, that guy's a gangster instead of that guy's a syndicate mage, and they're going to go jack that guy up. If the syndicate mage chooses to break whatever concepts they're breaking, that's on their side. Oh man, eventually maybe they'll learn enough about the supernatural that they'll be your own little hunter team. But as long as they're under your control for the most part, allies are not going to be problematically having issues with the masquerade. There's also a lot you can do. You can just be like, hey, you know, I'm doing this prank on this guy, so we're going to call an extermination team to open up all his windows and curtains to vent the place out during the day. Tee-hee, tee-hee, and then people leave. Just kind of try your best to be a little bit more thinking about every place that those allies can go. Commonly good allies are police departments, jails, protesters, homeless, hackers, news reporters, and security firms. Almost all main actions in the jihad could be solved by these particular things. Now, let's go to the next one. Contacts. Contacts represent mortals with a certain level of expertise that can give you information. Like all the backgrounds, you must specialize the contacts you have, the types of information they can give you. You may ask about plot direction or a hook that may have been learned by your contacts. There are times where you'll be like, I have no idea what to ask these guys. You are allowed, unlike most things, to blindly fish. Tell the staffer, hey, I got these guys in the city hall. I don't know any city hall stuff. Go find me some city hall plot. And the idea is the staffer will return with some piece of plot with that. You also can track where an influence was used. If you know that you're going after an enemy whose influences, let's say, are the police, you can have a news reporter contact track the police and take recordings of all the people they roughed up and begin to start using that to then aggress against their influences. Now, it is very important to remember, while allies and retainers might be able to give information, we are talking about contacts are the creme de la creme of information gathering. if you have allies and retainers, they may be like, hey, yeah, that house blew up. If you have contacts, they're going to say, this is the phone number for the guy who blew up this house for this reason. That is the vast difference between contacts and allies and retainers. Key examples: medias for blogger news, city workers for, like, let's say, Department of Water, Power, and Transit, police dispatchers, hospitals, and airport security. We have a message from Fairy Glass here, and let's see what this looks like. Can I have an absolute clarification of that each background has its own downtime action and is not pulled from your standard 3 downtime actions or not? Because it always seemed muddled between BNS and house rules and what all. Okay. The exact nature of a background is the background is a self-acting action that is not a downtime. These actions can be approved or denied by the staffer based on what the request was. The reason that it's convoluted is allies says the person has to actually pay the person back. It is a tit for tat. And in this tit for tat environment, you are forced to almost spend a downtime to refresh the nature of your alliance. I'm right now trying to hunt down that background page so we can, here we go. Okay, let me hop you to that page. Now, where is that line? Here we go. They generally believe you a friend and will ask you for a favor in the future. This line directly implies that my initiation of acting allies means I have to return something in the future. Most people I've spoken to about this feel that if I have allies 5, I just have to spend 1 downtime to pay back the ally 5. But if I have allies 1, I'm spending 1 for 1 kind of tit for tat. They better have a focus that really helps me. Okay? But a retainer is protecting your haven without having to spend a downtime to do that. Your influences are acting of their own accord without you having to spend a downtime to do that. Okay? I hope that has answered your question, Fairy Glass. If you have a more detailed question on that, feel free to ask. And, or pay them back with ally. That is a very strong point, Dr. Bob. You could spend another one of your backgrounds to support the ally or contact. You could be like, hey, ally, I know you covered my butt by stealing all the distributor caps for all those cars over there. I know I don't have time to cover you this week, but my friend, Retainer Joe, is willing to wash all your cars tomorrow. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. And we are now on retainers. Retainers basically means you have someone in your slavery, someone who is willing to do whatever you want. They are the classic Renfield who has your back. Most of the time they are bloodbound retainers. They do not need to be bloodbound retainers. It could be, let's say you're a corporation CEO and it's your personal assistant. That all works. Now, you use stock NPC rules to build retainers. And in the stock NPC rules is they get a certain number of specialties, and then they get the power of that specialty equal to the level of the retainer. So for example, if I have a level 3 retainer, and I'm going to have 1 specialty be potence, 1 specialty be brawl, and 1 specialty be dodge. He's my bruiser. He's a pugilist. He would walk in with 3 potence, 3 brawl, and 3 dodge. Not 1, 2, 3. He has all of them at his highest level. So when you get to retainers 5, these are more powerful than starting vampires. I could have a guy with firearms 5, dodge 5, Stealth 5 and let's say Lore 5, and his final one is going to be Cell 5. And I got a dude who's like the best sniper in the world who guns down everybody for my whim. That is absolutely the proper level of a Retainer's 5. Okay. Now, Mentor. Mentor is referenced in BNS, but the mechanic was removed. They explained that leadership adds to their check too. If you're, Dr. Bob brought up, does leadership add to the check of the retainer? And it does if you're in their presence, I believe, because they're inspired by you. I don't think it works if you send them on a mission. But we could check that later if you like. Now, where is the exact line? So, in BNS, there is this particular line. Backgrounds flesh out the player's concept, helping you define the portion of the character's history. Does the character have a powerful mentor in vampiric society? Does the character have access to a great deal of money, or are they poor? Do they have access to servitor companions? Does the character have access to a powerful mentor in society? BNS has already said they were originally going to write a mentor. I did not have the beta rules on how they actually did mentor, so I wrote my own. And that is what mentor school mechanic we use in BNS, in POS. So let me go through that. The idea of mentors in POS is that you have particular people who are stronger in vampiric society than you that are supporting you. And it is a actual point-for-point kind of representation for the prestigious sire merit. If you have a prestigious sire merit, you essentially have the person is famous and forgiving. Okay, now we're going to explain what all these traits kind of mean. The idea of the traits is imagine your mentor is almost like a haven. And as I add traits to my haven, I can add traits to my mentor. And it's not that they got any better, it's that they gave you more access to their tools. The first one is famous. This is your person is a prince, let's say, of their previous city, or they're an archon that goes around. If you take this twice, they are a Justicar inner circle of the sect, and you're essentially their little paragon buddy who they help out occasionally because you're much more valuable to them. Master of Powers means they know one rare power that they can teach you at the time this is taken. So while they may not necessarily have like the blood of some Samedi to teach you how to do Thanatosis, they have an ally of theirs that can teach it to you. Skilled is they know 3 uncommon abilities at 5. In Pillars of Salt, we also have secondary abilities. Secondary abilities is a much harder. You can't just grow them. You have to find someone who knows that. This is an avenue to get those powers. Lore Master. Through their personal experience, they have effectively 20 lores and are willing to answer questions based on this, but not teach you the lore. This is the basic kind of, I saw something crazy. What does this do? I'm going to go call Dad. Hey, Dad, that dude, his head, like, separated and he flew around, and the dad's going to be like, oh, that's a Cathan of Polynesia. And you're going to be like, oh, wow, that's really cool. And then you hang up your phone. The reason it's not really overpowered is it's not in your head. You're only getting every answer. So you can get over a hurdle, but you're not going to get every piece at instant recall. Now, first amongst equals means they will send assistance in the form of NPCs of their clan or sect. If your daddy's a Justicar and you're like, oh man, fight's happening here, daddy, he's going to go send maybe an Archon to kind of back you up. Now, this absolutely is based on how much staffer you have and how much NPC action you have. Might be they send someone who just does influence actions around you. Now, resourceful is they have access to resources 5 or influences necessary to acquire most items. You could be like, Daddy, give me a birthday gift. And what do you want? I want a Maserati. Here's your one Maserati. Don't ask me again for anything until next year. Blood Sorcerer is they have 2 paths of blood magic and at least 5 rituals they are willing to teach. If you don't have, if they don't have blood magic on their own, they can cast the rituals for you or have items made from the ritual 5s they have. This is basically, let's say I really need a principal focus of Vitae Infusion. I can have my master create one, and he can back him up my play without every time me having to have a lockdown 4-point merit of thaumaturgical expertise. Thaumaturgical training. Excuse me. Then we have Information Broker. They have access to information on members of your sect. This will act as one level of information exchange, which essentially is contacts based only on supernaturals. Direct Intervener is on your death or torpor, your mentor will invest resource and efforts to avenge your demise. If you think that the world of darkness, everyone is connected to everyone, and everyone has alliances, and boons over there, and they're partially bloodbound to this dude, you shouldn't just be able to randomly assassinate some guy in some magic kill box and expect no repercussions from their betters or their allies. That's what it is to represent that. Forgiving is you have a forgiving nature and will accept more shame from your charge than our mentors would. The idea is if the mentor doesn't like you, he's not going to support you. Okay? And you have to also make an effort to keep your P's and Q's going well. If you bring shame on the mentor, they will temporarily lose levels, but you can also keep investing in them to kind of support your guy. Think this is the guy who's backing my play. I got to do my best to help him. Generation. There's a lot of text here. All it comes down to is the more I buy, the more blood I have in my body, the more I can spend, and if I can buy Elder Disciplines or Techniques. And if I don't buy a lot of this, I can buy a lot of techniques, and stuff costs me very little XP. Okay? Alternative identity. You have a background that people believe you're someone else, and in believing you're someone else, they believe you're another part of a different sect than you really are, or a clan you really are. So you can walk in and say, hey, I am a absolutely normal Ventru when I'm a Brujah Anarch Baron. Now, there is no magic Highlander stuff that lets you instantly know that the guy is not telling the truth. You have to be able to prove it through other means. Now, they gave you a very convoluted mechanic in Werewolf how to break through alternative identities. And let me try to cut it down for you as much as I can. If you have an alternative identity, let's say I have a 3, and then someone wants to break through it, they must do a minimum of 3 downtimes before they even begin to test. So most people aren't going to just do 3. Most people do 5 because they can guarantee they've at least got every piece of a person that could be out there. Then they have to do a test. And the test is the mental plus attribute, mental plus investigation against the mental plus subterfuge of the alternative identity person. If you win, and you spent a downtime equal or greater to their alternative identity, you have learned the secret of their alternative identity. Okay? Now, in Pillars, we also have it that every level of alternative identity you get, you may have a level of status in that sect. So you have to have one, or everyone's just got a Highlander, hey, you're not Sabbat, you have Camarilla status. But what the real value to this is, I could, let's say, pretend to be Halderstadt the Elder when I'm Halderstadt the Younger, and convince everyone of my luminary years and all my incredible power. So think about, you can do alternative identity to make people believe you're older or the like. Okay. Fame! I guess you are going to live forever if you're a vampire. The nature of fame, though, is you have a mortal reputation of being important or having some aspect of success. People will listen to people with fame. If they recognize you, you're +5 on any non-supernatural social challenges. And you can also do certain things like, hey man, lend me your car. I can't make it to the concert in time. Or drive me there. They're going to kind of support you and things like that. The nature of fame... let me actually stop because we have a conversation coming up here. Let's see. Fairy Glass says, I thought the Highlander power only applied to your own sect. Because it says you know from your sect, it doesn't let you know if you're in or from another sect inherently. No. What I'm saying more is, I'm a Sabbat guy walking on up, and I say, yo, I'm a Camarilla dude. My Highlander magic says, I know you have no Camarilla status. Thus, you must be another sect. Thus, let's go kill him. But just as much, let's say I'm trying to replicate my own sect again. I am a random Tremere who wants to seem like I'm much more powerful than I am. I could buy alternative identity for some Tremere elder that died centuries ago, so I can walk around as an elder, is kind of the idea that we're talking about. But not that you're inherently not, that you're cam, I can tell you the spot. No. You have no ability to know the level of a person's status in another sect. You would, if I'm Camarilla and you're Sabbat, I just know that you're not Camarilla. So absolutely, it's like how Karsh the Warlord walks around as a Seraph and a Warlord, because all those Camarilla guys don't know he holds like 7 Sabbat status. They just know he holds 7 Camarilla status. Okay. Now, back to fame. The idea of your fame range makes no sense to me without the downtime concept, because most games are going to be in your local city or scene. If you're having a game that's sweeping between the state, you're already in like a kind of a cam club, and maybe this is the only place that should kind of be. In an average everyday game, fame I find is the worst background that was written. They really couldn't have done a ton to it. I felt it should have had some modification to hunting. I think it should have been, if you have fame, you don't even have to spend a hunting downtime if you're in your domain. But now you gotta. There's also like another weird thing about fame. Like, if I'm an elder vampire, unless I have alternative identity, how are people feeling I'm so great and famous and everyone recognizes me on the street of a 500-year-old guy? It doesn't make any sense. Fame is... I'm not a fan of the way fame is kind of written, but you gotta go with what you got. Gotta go with the girl who you brought. Okay, background herd. Background herd, very simple. You got guys you feed from, you fill up your tank. If you want to feed at game, it lets you feed a percent. You gain a number of blood points in 5 minutes of out-of-game feeding instead of the standard 15 minutes, and you gain a number of blood points equal to your herd rating. You cannot allow other characters to access this advantage. We kind of retcon that in Pillars, where people who you are incredibly close to, you can lend their herd to, and those people then know where your herd is and the like. So you only kind of do it to people who you really trust, or you have some phantom herds out there. Now, a lot of people also come up with, well, I'm such a humane vampire. I would never feed off of a human. I only summon animals, or I drink from blood banks, or you have some other kooky, humane, more way to drink. In Pillars of Salt, we make it that if you want a modification other than you're drinking from people, you have to spend 2 points for every level of herd you would effectively have. Okay. Resources. As you can tell, resources were not stingy on the words. Basically, it's you got cash. It's how well you do stuff, how well you can afford it, what you kind of facilitate with those monies. Now, you can do this weird thing called overtaxing your resources. Like the storyteller says, hey, you need to have a stack of cash to do this particular act. You can push yourself to the limit and like max out your credit cards for it. It is not a particularly good mechanic, but it does let you kind of hurdle past those moments. The most annoying mechanic, and there's not really a way to get around it, so it is what it is there's nothing that stops people from saving money. If they don't know that they're going to spend all that cash every month, you kind of got to give them a way to squirrel it away. It's not like they have their Amazon Fresh grocery bill. These are vampires that all they really care about is where they live, who they control, and what was the last time they fed from someone. most games should have some kind of way to calculate people's spare cash, because there will be a day they want to actually crack open the piggy bank and get something special. Haven. The Haven background is you have a place that you can, for all intents and purposes, safely stay. Now, they don't say this. It's kind of one of these, you got to go with the flow, that if you don't have a Haven background, it would only take a normal downtime action, or let's say a contact or investigation, to track you. You are sitting on the road with a sign above your head that says, Smudge the Ignored lives here. The moment you have a background Haven point, you are in a situation where, for all intents and purposes, it's your home and they have to do actions to get you out of it. Now, here are some of the ones that are as a default, and there are a few that we've added in POS. Guards. You have a group of retainers, up to 5 levels, you can split any way you want, and that are guarding your home. They can't really leave the home, but they're sitting there guarding it. It's enough to kind of make most players who assaulted say, back up, this is a little too rich for my blood. Library. Before making a research or lore test, you can spend 1 hour looking up things in your library, and you will receive a +3 bonus to your pool. Your library also has a number of lores in them equal to the level of your Haven, but these lores must be listed, and they will take a downtime to access them. But this can be taken more than once. Okay? You can find 1 piece of lore per downtime. So if you had 2 libraries in your Haven, you could do 2 downtimes to find 2 pieces of lore. Location. It's located in a fancy pants place, so any downtime aggressions against you will take 2. Luxury. You have a fancy inside place instead of just a fancy community, and any mortal in there, you have +3 on your social traits against them. Security. Any attempts to make it in your Haven or bypass detection will have a -3 penalty, plus you will always receive at least 1 turn of warning when someone attempts to break into your Haven. Let's we have Dr. Bob here with a resources question, so let's actually hop over to Dr. Bob. Resources also give you a home or apartment, so you aren't in the street if you don't have a Haven. Absolutely, but it doesn't make it that this place is concealed in any fashion. I rented a hotel room on Airbnb, and now there's this huge internet trail, or this person saying, oh man, you know, this guy, he just looked like Johnny Depp, and he's living at my Airbnb. If you don't have a Haven background, it would not, you have no defenses against downtimes to track you down. Let's hop back. And the one we were on here is security. That anyone attempting to break in or bypass has a -3 on their traits, and you'll at least receive 1 turn of warning when someone attempts to break into your Haven, no matter how well the attacker tests. If you have a security, you can apply it to a location for a year and a day, and you can actually sell these traits off. Most of the time, though, it seems obvious, but it's not in the book. If I set up the security for your Haven, I'm going to go there and act as if there's no security, because I know, oh, well, if I just pull out the phone cord, it's not calling the police. You got to kind of worry about who you may be kind of backing a play up in there. The next one we have is size. This is the most common trait taken. It's that you can have more than 1 person living at your home. Occult is you have particular wards and hedge magic aspects to protect you from NPC supernaturals. As long as the NPC does not have a full character sheet and they're on the retainer mechanic character sheets, they're unable to break through these wards. Size. Your Haven is enormous. Oh no. Size? Yeah, size is the most commonly taken one. Staff. Staff is, you have servants who see to the needs of your people and your guests. Staff cannot normally fight, but if forced, treat them as level 1 retainers without specialties or inapplicable to combat. This is the classic, I have a gaggles of red caps in my chantry, and I want to make sure that they can deliver the notes to all the people who live there. Mobile. Your haven is either an RV or some type of boat. It does not take a downtime to move locations. This was a big trait, as a lot of people early in Pillars were like, oh, my haven got attacked, I gotta move somewhere else. And so people started getting into much more mobile havens. Workshops or studios. This is, you have a +3 on all craft related tests. This is, let's say I am crafting something as my workshop part, or if I'm doing an acting thing, that could be my a studio part. Now, escape ready is essentially increasing of the nature of the security bonus. The security bonus gives you but a turn, is it? Security... Yeah, 1 turn of warning. That's not a lot of time. Now, escape ready is it allows people inside to leave through a hidden exit if they're attacked. The exit should only be used in emergencies, so it is not found. With this, let me see. Nope. Boop, boop. Oh, I said the exit should only be used in emergency, so it's not found. Because if they track you coming out of the hole, it kind of burns the hole. Public is your haven with this trait. It's surrounded by normal humans most of the time, and it can be either a famous landmark or a popular hotel. If I have a super fancy hotel and there's always staff and people around, some people might not want to break the masquerade to take me out. Exotic is your haven has some trait that will be worked out with the storyteller. For example, an underground cave might have no oxygen. A blimp that may only be accessible when refueling. Examples like that. You have something special that you kind of want listed away. Temple/chantry. It has all the resources at hand to cast your spells. Blood magic rituals will take 10 minutes less to cast in that haven, and it may be a requirement for some very kooky blood magics. Other characters may use the haven for this purpose if the haven also has size. And lastly, oubliette. An abyss mystic has created a darkness area where you can tap into the primordial abyss. It's about half the size of a closet. If you take it twice, it's the size of a large basement. You cannot purchase this unless you have abyss mysticism or any abyss mystic trait. Now, mortals who are in the inky blackness of the oubliette lose a willpower trait a day, and this loss is not permanent. Mortals and other vampires who are not in Path of Night, Path of Death and Soul, lose a willpower a day. If you want to tap into the oubliette, you can spend a downtime and come into the game with 0 willpower, but the next expenditure of your abyss rituals will cost you 1 less XP. The owner of the oubliette can choose to have no effects, either positive or negative. Okay. Now, Rite. The book listed as rituals, which I feel is really poorly written, because there are thaumaturgy rituals, but Rite is Rite throughout the sect. It means you have Ignoblius and Octuritus Rite that are these minor magical effects that you can cast to keep things moving along. The most commonly known ones are Creation Rites, which is Embrace, Valdery, which is Mutual Blood Bond, Monomacy, which is a one-on-one fight to deal with disputes, and one more rite of your choosing. Some of them are holidays, some of them are tests of faith, other things like that. Now, you only learn a faction Rite if it was utilized by, it can only be utilized by members of that political faction. So if you're an ultra-conservative and you have a loyalist in your pack, they can't gain the benefit from you casting a faction-based ritual. And if you are no longer the faction, you cannot cast that ritual. Now, I put a little caveat at the bottom because some games do progress, that if you already have 5 rituals for this background, you can add more Rite to your repertoire for 2 XP each, showing your mastery of each one. Hello, Harry, for joining us. And as sad as it is, Mr. Fox, I have just finished the class. But you're in just for the question time. So, does anyone have any questions that they would like to ask. And we're going to leave the question time open for just 2 minutes tonight. If we get some questions going, I'm obviously not going to stop, but I don't want us to have to sit all night waiting for the wonderful chat people. Can you break down ritual and vitae in a little bit more, please? Okay. So, rituals are thaumaturgical events that let you cast other powers. They are 2-point times level abilities that you can get equal to your thaumaturgy level, and it says you only may have a number equal to that. Because Pillars of Salt allow other rituals that are only, let's say, status, or you're a regent, or you want to embrace someone, we allow you to go above the 5 minimum, but you only can cast 5 a night. Or the 5 maximum. Now, Rite are the magic rituals of the Faith of the Sabbat. Think about it how one is actually casting spells, and the Rite of the Sabbat is like Catholic rituals of confession and communion and things like that. Just in the world of darkness, those things also have effects. Okay? I hope that answered your question, Fairy Glass. Let's see the next question. It's because I get confused by those, and what makes them different. The biggest real confusion is it's like major and minor. The rituals of thaumaturgy are major effects. The Rite of the Sabbat are minor effects, because there is some magic to the Sabbat's nature of their connections to the cupola and all these other things. It's very deep lore, but at the end of the day, it's a minor investment that they kind of have. Okay, the next one we have is, how does one acquire more backgrounds? You would, in POS, you would spend the XP, you would go to the Downtime submission form, which is on our list of important links. You would fill out a very small questionnaire. We've made it incredibly dainty. You'll click submit, and as long as the information's there and you spent the points, poof, you have that background. Unless it's generation, you got Diablo for that. Okay, now, can you cover how much effort it takes to find a haven? Okay. If the person has, let's say, a haven 3, okay, and it has guards, and it has location, and it has size. In all reality, it should take you 4 actions to find the haven. 1 to find it, and 3 to overcome their levels of scrutiny. Okay? Now, you absolutely can walk over and just track the guy back, and if you're skilled enough to hide and you have some great subterfuge, some great stealth, you could do it that way. But if I'm just checking paperwork and trying to find it through other angles, the more impressive it is, the less likely I'm going to have references to me, and thus the harder it is to find. Next, do downtimes need to be submitted for PC interaction chats? No. If you are going to be interacting with another PC and they have complete consent, you should not need to do that. The nature of the downtime things are really, I have a certain amount of currency I'm spending for staff focus and time. They're marking I have fed. They're marking I'm speaking to some NPC. They're marking I'm hunting for a quest sheet. You're paying for that time with a certain concept. It's very socialist. Everyone gets the same map. But that is kind of the gist of why any PC to PC interactions, chats or whatever, should normally not be a downtime. So, versus Ritual and Rite, does Independent Alliance would have Rite to them? No. It is a special part of the Faith of the Sabbat, as brought apart by the cupola connections of the original founders of the Sabbat and the Valkyrie. Theoretically, the Tal May Ra has the rituals too, because they were the ancient kind of keepers of this. The Black Hand has it. They are called like Sha'ir rituals of their like minor magics that they kind of put into their symbols. But the basic thing is you got to have some type of crazy kooky fanaticism faith and not the practicality of the Independent Alliance. Can I just have my retainer around me all the time, or do they need to keep a day job too? If you have the resources to pay for both of them, absolutely they can stay in your house. If not, they are essentially a homeless person kicking it in your home and they're eating canned meat and getting a little kind of kooky weird. This is completely fine if you want, but if you're wanting also that dude then to go to the art gallery and make people like you, it's going to be a lot harder to do that. Yes, he would be a scene hobo for food. He couldn't be a stabbing hobo because he couldn't afford the knife. Let's say we lose a territory and my haven was in that territory. How much effort is it to move my haven? Can I move or change its bonuses in the haven the same way? Okay. If you must... Well, it actually brings up a deeper point, which I haven't brought up. No background can completely be annihilated from you without random storyteller fiat. So, if I have my haven and my haven is burnt down by the enemies of the sect, in 2 games, I automatically am going to have a new place to put my haven. If the way POS runs it is you can spend a downtime to reduce the costs per downtime spent. So if there is a 2-game window, I'm at game 1, my haven gets burned down. I spend a downtime, we have another game occur, the moment the game's over, I have my haven back. Okay? So most of the time people hear, oh, it's 1 downtime to move my haven. Now, if you want to change the traits of your haven, you absolutely can do that with the exact same method. I burned down my old house because I didn't like the way the wallpaper looks, but I take all the insurance money and I get this beautiful new mid-century modern bungalow, and that is totally fine and great. Okay? I'm really happy with all the questions we've had tonight. I will give another turn of the minute to see if we have any more questions. And I will move to our little thank you for watching piece. Okay. Well, I think we are at the end of this class. Thank you everyone for participating, whether they did through the YouTube channel afterwards or if they were able to talk here on the chat. Every interaction we have in the middle of the chats is questions that I didn't think of or things that people should have clarified, and we wouldn't really have them be nearly as powerful if it wasn't for your effort. So, thank you again for coming to this class. Oh, there's one last question. I don't want to kick this person out. If I'm using one background to influence another background, is that 1 or 2 downtimes? That would be 1 background. Okay. You also may notice, by the way, we did not talk about influences. Influences and the mechanics behind them, I believe, will be another class. Really, this was a lot. Influences are so codified, even if they are confusing, it at least has its own kind of rules and mechanic. This was really to kind of focus on the ones that are a little bit more vague. But thank you very much. If you do have any further questions, please comment on the YouTube channel or at facebook.com/groups/Pillar of Salt, which is our game, and we'd be happy to answer those questions. Have a great night. Bye-bye.